Last year, we went on the local scene to Pilgrim Hall Museum, where Reverend Dr. Robert Gomes delivered a lecture on Parting Way Cemetery, the final resting place of African-American Revolutionary War veterans Prince Goodwin, Cato Howe, Kwame Quash, and Plato Turner. We reconnected with Dr. Gomes and Community Art Collaborative at the Plymouth Public Library to learn about the progress in advancing knowledge of parting ways since we last met.
Today's event is being held at the Plymouth Public Library, and it's part one of a three-part lecture series on a paper that was written a long time ago by Reverend Dr. Gomes, talking about this concept of what would it look like to have a monument in the making, and what would that process be? Specifically talking about the Parting Ways Cemetery, and what is his personal connection to the story and the history of Parting Ways.
Parting Ways is a location for a site that, for African-American slaves, they served in the American Revolution in 1776 in Boston. Because of that, they were given their freedom, and they were awarded 94 acres of land in Plymouth.
When you go upstairs into the historical section of the library, there's all of these filing cabinets jam-packed, full of information. Some of it's genealogy that was copied from Pilgrim Hall Museum and the Town Hall, but then there was all of this research that was done. Marge Anderson and a handful of other people who were working from the 1970s to about early 1990s on gathering all of this genealogy. Who were all the people in Plymouth? How were they possibly connected to Parting Ways? What happened when they did the dig with Professor Dietz? What were those items that were found? How are those historically relevant and important? So we talked to the library about how do we help solve this problem of making it digital. So we were able to secure a grant, and the library is going to hire an intern to help them with this process. The process of getting all of these documents digitally, it opens it up to the whole world. And you think about professors who want to talk on this subject. Now they have access to that information. Students who want to write research papers. Now they have access to that information. We can illuminate this story on a much larger platform.
I think that the library purpose is to be the center of the community. We want to be sure that the untold stories of our whole community are available to the public. And I think this project particularly tells some of those untold stories. And I think they make for a richer community. They make for a more inclusive community. And I think that the library is about inclusivity. And I think this project is a great beginning towards telling more of those stories.
Without the work and the contributions of Black Americans, we would not be where we are. So many of those stories are not told as often, especially in the early founding stages of our country. So when you have the opportunity to tell stories like this and to unpack them and use archaeological facts and insights, because we do have information about the lives that these men lived, it is a wonderful opportunity for all of us to understand what early American history and the contributions that Black Americans have made throughout history, from the time that they arrived here as slaves and through liberation, all the way up to today. These are absolutely stories we should be telling.
As stewards of the stories, we're kind of like the person who gives you the guided tour. And it's important to be able to give our children and the future generations access to all of these amazing stories. We want to keep them curious about who we are, where we've come from, where we've gone, so that we can start paving a path where we're headed.
It's a movement that is, I think, something to be proud of, especially if you're Black, especially if your skin is brown, especially if you feel marginalized. It has a metaphor for continue to rise up. I think there's a good movement moving on.
I hope it continues to be taught in universities.
We are so glad you stopped by. If you would like to continue to support community in action through media, please consider donating to the local scene. The QR code here will take you to where you need to go. Thanks, friend.